I actually thought Dallas was playing better than their record indicated coming into this matchup. And the Cardinals, who I don't think have an iota of the talent Dallas has, played Detroit tough and lost by just a touchdown. There was actually a pick six in that game that was reversed on Jared Goff. So I expected this to kind of be a fun back and forth affair, especially in Dallas, in their stadium, on their home turf. You look up and the game's over at the end of the first quarter. I mean, Joe, walk us through your initial assessment. Did you see this coming today in Big D with Dallas?
Well, it's kind of funny because after the game, Jerry Jones called it a shocker. And in reality, no one should be surprised by what happened today because AT&T Stadium, where the Cowboys played, it used to be a safe haven for them. They had an incredible home win streak that they carried all the way into the playoffs last year. And then the Packers came to town and they destroyed them in the first round of postseason. Okay, one game, good Packers team, good playoffs, move on, right? Well, that's been the same exact script at home this entire season. The Cowboys, in terms of playing the Packers, the Saints this year, the Ravens this year, and now the Lions, they've been outscored in the first half 110-35, which means that they are just getting absolutely the doors blown off them. And it's the same thing over and over again. It's an offense that can move the ball but struggles to score in the red zone. It's a defense that can't stop anything. They look like Swiss cheese out there. And I think that there was a stat tonight that Jared Goff had no close window throws on completing like over 12 yards per attempt at one point. Long story short, dudes were running wide open. David Montgomery, you remember that scouting report about David Montgomery where it's called him like the Frankenstein and it said he's got Saquon Barkley's speed and he's got the power of Jim Brown? Well, shoot, he looked like running back Frankenstein against this Cowboys defense. But to be honest with you, a lot of running backs have. Look at what Derrick Henry did to him, not too long ago. Mind you, that's a guy that lives in Dallas and wanted to come play for the Cowboys. Long story short, this safe haven has become a house of horrors for them. They are struggling at home, and it makes you wonder, okay, you're 0-3 at home and 3-0 on the road. Is this a Jekyll and Hyde situation? My assessment, this is time to look in the mirror, just like many players said tonight. And when you do find that, you'll find that this Cowboys team might not be as good as we thought.
It's been pretty crazy to watch this season. I mean, because I made a bet on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl before the year because it was some boost from the sports book, and you're like, yeah, you might as well. Like, they're in that range where you're getting good odds. You know that they could, a couple things break their way, they could be in the hunt. And you watch them play football, and it's like they totally forgot how. It's ridiculous. I haven't seen too much, but every time you turn it on, like the defense is just getting gashed. And that's a defense that coming into the year, everybody was saying like, oh, might be the best defense in the NFL. They create turnovers. They can get to the quarterback. It's shocking to see. And again, I didn't have a chance to watch that game, but you just on Twitter. And so you see the tweets pop up like, oh, you wonder if McCarthy's going to get fired. You're like, wow, that must be going bad. And then you see the actual numbers and it's like, holy heck. I mean, that's incredibly bad. So I'm curious to see, like, they have some talent. You would think they could at least play some sort of functional football, but we're a month into the season, and they still haven't figured that part out.
I mean, I'm fascinated by the situation that preceded this year and the fact that they felt an urgency to sign Dak Prescott. Like, up until he signed that contract, Joe, I thought it was just like predetermined he was going to play this out. Like, we were going to do like Kirk Cousins style. And they were going to put them in a position like keep their options open. The minute that they signed him to that deal and then did nothing as a result of the rest of the moves, I know, Joe, we were talking off air that the Cardinals and the Cowboys had very similar off seasons where felt like they really did not participate in free agency as much as some of these other teams. And certainly with Dallas, like, okay, they got some guys to sign, but you can get a running back in the draft high. You can get a couple different options in free agency to bring back Zeke. And to bring back some of these options, I mean, those aren't serious options. So in turn, I would have assumed like, okay, they're clearly taking a step back, but then they signed Dak to that contract, and it's like, well, wait a minute, trying to have your cake and eat it too. Where, yeah, we don't want to invest as much, but we're going to pay the quarterback so we're not like unwatchable. And I think that that's kind of what Jerry is getting. Like, you're winning the games you're supposed to win against bad teams. Like, who'd they beat? They beat the Steelers with Justin Fields. They beat the Giants. They beat the Cleveland Browns, who could very well be the worst team in the NFL. So, like, their schedule's tough, Joe, and I'll let you speak on that. But it does feel like hey, let's just do the bare minimum this year to get people to have intrigue, so we're not the Patriots, so we're not Carolina bad. And Dak's good for that, right? Like the wheels are never going to fall off. Knock on wood. Like he's never going to get injured. He's always going to be available. He's always going to get his garbage time yardage. But this is a far cry from the team that I thought last year had a chance to really make some noise in the NFC playoff picture.
Yeah, and Johnny, don't take this the wrong way, but the fact that you're so on point and so accurate about this, and you don't, spend every single day watching this team or covering this team, is kind of a testament to exactly where they are. Because the Cowboys, there's this kind of idea that if you go back in the offseason, Jerry Jones said we're going to be all in, right? But one of the things they kept saying is, our cap space is not there. We got a pretty low cap space. Well, other teams have found ways to maneuver around the cap, especially those who, quote, go all in. Maybe you mortgage your future a little bit, right? You trade some draft picks, you sign some guys, you go over the cap a little bit to make it happen, right? Cowboys were not willing to do that. Instead, they were willing to go very cheap in a lot of areas. The biggest free agent signing they had was Eric Kendricks for $3 million. And, they pushed a lot of these needs to the back burner. Even running back, though, to your point, Johnny, that was a position where, like, hey, Tony Pollard's gone. You're bringing back Rico Dowdle, who has an injury history, who showed some promise, and he showed some promise this season as well. Had a career night against the Steelers on Sunday night, and then they decided not to give him the ball at all because they wanted to give it to Zeke, who they hosted on a visit and got drinks with the night before the NFL draft. And that kind of told you exactly what they were going to do. They didn't draft a running back. They signed Nate Peat as an undrafted free agent who really had no shot. And long story short, I think it's getting to the crux of the Jerry Jones regime, right? The Cowboys have not won in a while, but they've been very relevant. They've been very valuable as a franchise. AT&T Stadium is packed every single game, even though the last 3 games you've heard "Let's Go Lions" chants, who dat for the Saints, and then "Let's Go Ravens" chants, ringing throughout the stadium for a long time. I think Jerry Jones' biggest fear is being irrelevant, and I think that if you go all in, you risk relevancy. If you kind of mortgage the future, you might pay the price eventually, and I don't think that's something he's willing to do.
I have that fear too, to be irrelevant. Do just enough to stay relevant here at All City, but don't go too all in where people expect something from me, right, Hank?
Oh, that's 100% correct. I mean, that's the motto. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that they're going with Zeke. I think that was one of those stories in the offseason that everybody looked at and was like, I mean, how could you possibly justify this? And then you see like, oh, Rico Dowdle's the other option. It's like, have I just totally missed the whole Rico Dowdle thing? Is he actually like this player that you want to get on the field and he's awesome? And you go back and look, it's like, yeah, I mean, 4 yards per carry, and it's a pretty small sample size. Like, good for Rico, and I guess you throw him out there, why not? But the idea that you could just throw Zeke in the mix and all of a sudden your running game could be like salvageable it's just insane. And I don't know how you don't do something about that.
It does paint a picture, though, that like they paid Dak. They did not pay Mike McCarthy. They didn't saddle themselves with a bunch of extensions outside of CeeDee Lamb and Dak. Like, all right, Joe, talk to us about like where do you see this going? Because I saw comments from Jerry Jones in the postgame, like we're not even thinking about making coaching changes, and that's not even on his mind. That they were humbled today, but I mean, the minute you don't give Mike McCarthy security, like you've brought this on yourself, have you not?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Mike McCarthy and all the coaches are on expiring contracts. That is pretty much kind of the actual true meaning of all in. That, yeah, we're going to push the chips we do have as little as they are. And if it doesn't work, we're out. And I think that's kind of the situation with Mike McCarthy. Everyone's known it. And there's got to be some weird tension between, the coaches knowing that, hey, you're on prove-it deals, essentially. And also just look at what Jerry Jones has done, though, in the past. I mean, he let Jason Garrett go to an expiring contract multiple times. One time it resulted in an extension. The other time it didn't. So in terms of whether or not Mike McCarthy is going to be fired anytime soon, that's not going to happen. Jerry Jones was adamant about that we're not evaluating that, especially as they go into the bye week. But, you start to wonder, I mean, that's a tough schedule ahead of them. They're going to San Francisco after the bye week, and that's been a place or against a team that they've struggled mightily against. You go to Atlanta, a team that, has some talent that could run the ball all over the Cowboys, pretty poor run defense right now with Bijan Robinson and co. And then you got the Eagles and Houston after that. long story short, this could get out of hand quickly. And you start to wonder, if Jerry Jones is not going to evaluate Mike McCarthy's status now, when will he, if at all?
Oh man, it's dysfunction only we know here in the desert, Joe. We live it and breathe it just like you. I'm hopeful for Dallas to turn it around. I don't hate the Cowboys like a lot of Cardinal fans do. I like CeeDee Lamb a lot. I wish the Cardinals had drafted CeeDee Lamb. And there's a lot of games on the schedule that the Dallas, could help a lot of these teams like the Cardinals in the NFC West. Like beating San Francisco after the bye would help. But then you play at Atlanta, Philadelphia, Houston, Washington. It's getting tough real quick for Big D.
We all silly like the mayor.